Okay, let's ask a couple of family questions. Let's start with the first one, and I'm going to start with Jim and let it move out from there, because I know that he has some real strong thoughts on this. What's the best piece of advice for parents to first teach their teens about finances and financial responsibility? Maybe include the 70-10-10-10, but they also said, but beyond the 70-10-10-10, what are your thoughts on teaching kids about money and financial responsibility and that type of thing?
You know, that simple little plan I give is probably the best. But then ownership in a piece of property, it doesn't matter how small or it is, right? Get the kids finding something to buy, to own, either collectively or individually. You know, there's nothing like it. You know, this is mine, I bought it, I'm paying for it. You know, something tangible. Something tangible. Sometimes if you put your money away, yes, it'll grow. If you put your money in something, yes, it will increase. But there's nothing like ownership, whatever it is. And of course, I'm big on real estate. I saved myself a monstrous deficit from the tech wreck by just in time investing in real estate. I'm telling you, it is the, part of the wave of the future is owning a piece of ground. But anything you can think of, that kids can collectively get together and, buy and own, and especially if it has, a chance to increase in value and then sell it. Nothing like it. Profits are better than wages.
Dennis.
If you have little kids, if you have little children, 3 jars. The first jar is for 1/3 of your allowance to go into to spend it on anything you want, when you want it, right away, immediate gratification. 1/3 of your allowance is to be looked at in delayed gratification for something later this year that you really want, but you can't spend it right now because you have to take the lid off. It's on a little tight. And the third jar, you can't take the lid off because it's called your future. So you put 1/3 of your allowance to spend immediately, 1/3 to spend later this year on something that you're delayed but can't have right now, maybe for somebody else, like a Christmas present. And the third one is your future, which you must pay, which you cannot make any withdrawals from, only deposits, 2, and then you'll be wealthy by the time you're 40.
Good. Any other thoughts on teaching children or teenagers money? What maybe you did with your own kids and that type of thing?
One of the things, I have my 17-year-old son here, Christopher, and one of the things I've been teaching him since he was 2 or 3 years old is that he's not getting none of my money. So, so I think that was one. Really, I taught him that real quickly. So just so he'll realize that to start being a little bit more aware of what money is and how to use it properly and so forth, and how to create it and how to do good things with it and so forth. And so whenever he wanted something, unless it was a birthday or some type of thing, we got gifts. But whenever he just wanted something out of the blue, just, I want this, he understood that he had to earn it. So he would start coming up, Dad, do you have any projects for me to do? Is there anything, there's something that I desire here. I just wanted to see if there's any projects or anything. Or, once he got to the age of starting to understand investments, he started asking me, is there any investment opportunities? What would you say to invest in? We started talking about investments, so now he's invested. He probably has more money than most adults right now. He's 17 years old. I think I'm going to ask him for a loan later on. I'll ask you for a loan, Christopher.
Does Christopher ever do like my Christopher does, and my girls too? They come up and they say, do you have anything we can do for money? And I say, sure, why don't you do this or do that, and I'll pay you, X amount of dollars. And they say, well, do you have anything other than that I could do for some money? They work down to the lowest common denominator they can get away with. So
they will do that for sure. And I do what Charlie Tremendous Jones said the other day, is that I started actually early on. Christopher would come up and ask me if there's any projects, and I said, there's so many projects I'm working on right now, I'm not going to get a chance to research all these books. And so I would get him to start researching some books and reading them and doing these book reports. And that got him into the personal development type of situation. So that was a good point. Then he started negotiating the prices, after he learned how to negotiate and so forth. So, especially after he learned the colors, then he started working me real good. So anyway.
Charlie, you got something that you've taught your kids?
Well, number one, the different ages, but almost all my children started working at earning something at 6. And the one story that I felt was the greatest lesson of my life, being self-motivated, was Jeffrey selling greeting cards. at age 6, and what I went through getting him to learn, I take the knocks. And we've done this with all of our children because you'll learn to manage your money a little better when you learn to earn it. And I know many of us, you've heard say, well, I hope my children don't have to go through what I went through. And somebody alluded to this earlier, and I wish I could make my children go through a little more of what I went through. But we can't do that. Times change. But I think one of the keys is finding some ways to, within their means, to earn money, and then teach them what to do with it after they've earned it.
Yeah, good old-fashioned lemonade stand with our 4 kids, and we make them buy the cups, and we'll loan them the money, but then they got to give it back to us and then buy the next round of cups and that kind of thing, and just make them earn the money and keep the other money. And we went on vacation, and my son started watching World Series of Poker. They got poker on television now, and then he said, hey, how about if we set up a blackjack stand on the side of the road? I'm thinking, yeah, 25 cents a hand, just stop on the way home. Kids, they got ingenuity. So anybody else have some other tips that you have for kids? Donna?
I think a real basic is a checkbook, or pretty much now it's the management of an ATM card. but a real basic. My son said, why do I need a checkbook? I'm not going to be writing any checks. I said, 1, you may be, and 2, you're going to use the ATM, and you have to know how to balance that statement, and that's a basic for living. And I think one other thing is teach your kids budgeting, and base the budgeting on needs, not wants. Because it's always pretty amazing to a person, even an adult, that when you make the budget based on what you need, it doesn't have all that much on it. And then a second column has some wants in it, and the third column has the way we all just absolutely love to live, with the luxuries and the gifts. But teach the child a budget based on needs. That's a real budget. What do I have to live?
Dennis?
I have a 5-second Confucius Chinese proverb. Confucius say, parent who buy kid car, have car condemned. Parent who let kid buy car, polish same. In other words, they'll only take care of something if they're invested in it.
Yeah, good. Hey, Jim, do you want to clarify of course, kids should pay taxes? Some people, they don't like taxes. You want to clarify some of that? That's good.
Well, no, that was my illustration that I gave earlier. When a 10-year-old in California buys something that costs $1 in 7-Eleven, the proprietor asks him for 8 more pennies. And the question is, if you're that young, should you pay taxes? And the answer is, of course. Meaning everybody should pay. It's just really that simple, whatever it is. They call it hidden taxes and all kinds of taxes. But that's how things are done. Yes, it's misused, and yes, it's abused like every other industry, every other business, the government, And we all have to watch, right? That we don't misuse, that we don't abuse, that we're not careless. We must be careful. So the government is in the same position. But this is how, our society functions. We put up our money. Somebody, hopefully to the best of their ability, provides, streets and services and all the things we need that we cannot provide for ourselves. That is it. And yes, taxes are probably too high. Someone said to me, well, Mr. Rohn, when you die and you leave a couple of $1 million to your children, the government's going to take 50%. And so they're only going to get $1 million. What do you think about that? And I thought for a moment and said, well, here's then what I have to do. If I want them to get $2 million, I have to leave $4 million. So I'd rather go to work on that project than to try to get government taxes reduced.